All right, everyone, you're really going to get a kick out of this one. So, Zach and Tarn Adams of Bay 12 Games have sold 800,000 copies of Dwarf Fortress, and the most expensive thing that they have purchased is a Honda Civic. Dwarf Fortress was very close to 1 million wish lists before it launched and has since reached over 1 million wish lists. All of this is coming from... So this is here on PC Gamer. Of course, this is coming from the reports from GDC, and this was written by Joshua Wollens. Of course, I will link the article in the description of this video if you would like to read it yourself. Of course, that's the headline here, and of course, this is the older photo of them from when the game first launched, drinking their champagne. And you could see Tarn with his time since patch haircut. For those of you who don't know, Tarn had this tradition for years where he wouldn't cut his hair or shave his beard until he patched the game. So you could tell kind of how long it had been since the last patch based on how well shaved he was. Regardless of whether or not it's adding new features, the game has been patching pretty frequently recently. It's been like once every other month or so there's a patch coming in, so Tarn's been much more well kept as of late. But just skimming the article here, Dwarf Fortress has existed as a free game for near 2 decades, which you may actually learn a little bit more about in my recent video on the subject. But its 2022 premium version, which is of course just a graphical overhaul and UI update for the game, has gone from strength to strength. It turned Zach and Tarn Adams, Dwarf Fortress's original creators, into millionaires, and it has sold over 500,000 copies as of March last year. And they have recently stated at GDC that it has now sold 800,000 copies, and it has taken root on over 1 million wish lists, which is a very interesting way to word that. Now, the thing that I would like to point out is, for those of you who are unfamiliar, Zach and Tarn are actually very, very open about the number of copies sold. For those of you who are unaware, if you go to Bay 12 Games not Bay 12 Games, Bay 12 Forums, you could of course get to this from Bay 12 Games as well, but if you go to Bay 12 Forums here, they talk very openly about the amount of sales and copies sold and how they have been functioning. Previously, in earlier years, they would talk about gross revenue. These days, it's a very valuable resource as people who play the game. It actually gives you the ability to see how many copies they've sold per month, which means just with some basic math, like I was pretty aware of the 800,000 figure, but I actually was underestimating it. I thought it was closer to about 780,000 based on things that have been said last, but it is really nice to see that they are running at such high numbers. Now, this is a quote from Tarn back in the PC Gamer article, and Tarn says, I mean, I didn't actually think of hitting 1 million sales, because you're like, when is that going to happen? Something that he said a long time ago, actually, in a different article, which I'll see if I can source. And this was written by Wes Fenlon in 2019. And if I do a quick Control F here, we can get he does see money changing a few things. They might hire someone to help with graphics programming in the future, so he can focus on developing Dwarf Fortress's upcoming features, like the long gestating magic system. And he wants to keep paying the artists to work on the game after the initial release, and if money is as a concern really does go away for life, he says, why not release the source code? So that is a pretty crazy quote from way back when. Of course, if you would like to go back and read this article as well, I will link that down below, but that isn't the main subject of this video. So after talking about what if it hits 1 million sales, there's this added bit here which says, well, one good bet is that DF gets its imminent adventure mode update, which will bring the free game's popular RPG-ish roguelike mode to the premium version. Of course, the open world nature of adventure mode is quite different from fortress mode, so it's a very different thing. And there's this quote here from Tarn, which is similar to things he said before, but I'll read it out to you, where he says, we're thinking of it like an update, says Tarn, but it's not Baldur's Gate 3 or whatever. It's just a gentle update. But it's also the first time we're communicating with our wish lists people ever. We've not emailed them before or anything, and that's crazy because there's over 1 million of them. And now this is something that you don't see people on Steam talking about a lot. You know, when you get those emails that say, hey, a game that you wished for is on sale, it's a developer on the back end pushing a button saying, hey, our game's on sale. You should take a look. And it's really interesting to me to learn that, as somebody who owns Dwarf Fortress on Steam and has never actually pushed that button, that they're actually going to be pushing that button. Because I would never receive an email like that about it being on sale because, well, I already own it. I think that's a very interesting thing, and I'm actually kind of curious to see what that means and what that'll mean for the player base when this mode drops. And they continue on. So I'd say that there's a pretty good chance that DF's premium sales might brush up against 1 million in the wake of Adventure Mode's release. And there's probably going to be a little party, says Tarn. And probably a trip to somewhere exotic, adds Zach. Please go to Hawaii. You two have earned it. But for now, the brothers are doing what they've always done, working on Dwarf Fortress. 800,000 sales or no, the game is still technically in alpha, and there is much work still to be done. As I said at the beginning, if you would like to read this article for yourself or go just give them the page views, the links are down in the description, so the 2 articles sourced in this video. And genuinely, what I have to add here is, I think it's, once again, just very heartwarming to see this story continue to unfold. You know, having followed the game for a very, very long time beforehand, and now recently I've started a series on the history of Dwarf Fortress. If you would like to check that out, there is a, well, maybe a link in the description, or just check it out in the YouTube channel here. It's the most recent video I uploaded before this one. I'll put a link somewhere, maybe up there if I'm feeling fancy. But at the end of the day, if you want to go watch my series on like more details of Dwarf Fortress, it was kind of inspired by that video that I put up a couple days ago about the big wait, and just talking about that. And then I just started asking people, I was like, hey, well, like, what do you want to know about Dwarf Fortress? So now I'm going in and like trying to just make some videos just talking very specifically about the history of Dwarf Fortress as much as I know. Please correct me if I get things wrong. But it's a very interesting game to watch develop, and this is a really neat thing to hear as a tidbit, because there's a lot of games out there that are on my wish list, and I get emails about them all the time, and it actually kind of bothers me to a degree, and I generally don't actually look at them, especially if it's a game that I'm like kind of interested in, but not something that I'm like know for certain that I need to purchase. It's kind of cool hearing that they've never pushed that. Also, the 800,000 copies is about what I'd guessed, but nice to see. And the over 1 million wish lists is something that I think was mentioned on a Future of the Fortress update a while ago. But it was something that was mentioned before, so not a huge surprise there, but still really cool to see. Have you bought Dwarf Fortress yet? Are you still waiting? I'd like to know. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you want to see more videos like this talking about Dwarf Fortress and things related to Dwarf Fortress, and sometimes games like Dwarf Fortress, you can find that on this YouTube channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.